So this morning what I'd like to do is talk to you about a term that is increasingly being used in the marketplace with consumers, with advocacy groups, with activists, and this is this term, sustainability, and hopefully kind of pierce the veil of this word a little bit and show what a tremendous opportunity this is for Alberta, for Canada, and for producers and those of us involved in the global supply chain of beef around the world. A brilliant opportunity for us. So I'm going to launch right into it. I am here in a couple of capacities. One, representing a small mom-and-pop company based out of Brazil called JBS. We slaughter about 80,000 head of cattle every day, 75,000 hogs, close to 9 million birds, close to 25,000 lamb. And we started in the early 50s with very humble beginnings and have grown successfully over the preceding generations. But I'm here today in my capacity as president of the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. That's a pretty awesome title, huh? Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll kind of take you through the evolution of this roundtable, kind of what we're focused on, how you in this room can play an active and productive role, and kind of define this global challenge that we in agriculture are facing, and what we can do to really make the world a better place. So let's launch right into it. Sustainability, it's the new buzzword, right? Everybody's talking about sustainability. Everybody's talking about sustainability. But the big question is, what the hell does it mean? There are different definitions no matter who you talk to. If you talk to a social NGO, it's all about labor rights. If you talk to an environmental NGO, it's the carbon footprint of livestock. It's the belching. It's the methane. It's how agriculture is destroying the planet Earth. And so one of the great challenges that we had as a roundtable is let's try to wrap our arms around this incredibly nebulous term, sustainability, define it in a scientific manner that makes sense, that stands public scrutiny, and then go about addressing the real issues, the real challenges that are facing our industry, because there are challenges. And I think agriculture has proven time and time again that we're willing to step up and face that challenge. So let's look at the consumer's view. This is a painting from Norman Rockwell called The County Agent. You see the beautiful red barn. You see the agent there taking care of the brown and white. You see free-range chicken running around scratching, picking up salmonella and parasites from the ground. You don't see any black people or Hispanics. You know, it's just this idyllic vision of agriculture, right, from the 1930s. And this is what the consumer connotates with sustainability. You've got the old Grant Wood stoic American Gothic painting. I feel sorry for the young lady in that photo. Again, you see the red barn, the rolling hills, the black and white cows, these idyllic visions of what people think agriculture is. And it really demonstrates that there is this separation from modern agriculture. The modern-day consumer has not participated in the journey and the technological innovations that we have enjoyed and experienced in agriculture. So they view agriculture in these ways. And they equate that with sustainability. Organic is often promoted as sustainability. Now, sustainability in its very simplest term means producing more with less. Well, there's nothing wrong with organic, but organic produces less with more. So why is that equated with sustainability? You also look at grass-fed. Everyone promotes grass-fed as, oh, if beef is to be sustainable, it only can be grass-fed. Well, as much as some people may dislike concentrated animal feeding operations, you actually reduce your greenhouse gas, your carbon footprint, by having those animals more productive and being fed in intense operations, because they're producing methane for a decreased amount of time. They're more efficient. You're producing more pounds per animal, so it's actually a sustainable system. Not to say that grass-fed cannot be sustainable, not to say that we don't need grass-fed systems to help meet the challenges of tomorrow, but we have to be careful when we're defining sustainability and equating it with niche systems. And then we have the radicals, huh? Look at that. There's Al Gore with the full belly, right? Al Gore, he is the author of The Inconvenient Truth, right? He flies around the world in his corporate jet to tell people how flying around in corporate jets and burning fossil fuels is bad for the environment. And you have PETA that says, well, if we're going to save the world, we need to eliminate the #1 cause of global warming, which is meat consumption, right? So these are some of the challenges we're facing. It's very frustrating. You know, modern agriculture has an amazing story to tell, and we don't tell it often enough, which creates a vacuum which allows our critics to attack us with free will. Just look at some of these issues that are there on that cow. Heart disease, deforestation, asthma, antibiotics, manure pits. I mean, just horrific things being described about modern agriculture. Antibiotics is a huge issue. The Global Roundtable has released a draft definition, which I'll talk about, and immediately 150 organizations signed this huge petition which said antibiotics should be removed from modern agriculture. And of course, you know, the common theme that meat and livestock products contribute more to global warming than driving a car. This is the type of rhetoric that is out there about our industry, and it's very frustrating for those of us involved in agriculture because I think we understand that we are a part of the most modern, the most efficient, productive, safe, and globally dispersed food system in the history of mankind. Yet this is what we have to deal with. We're constantly assailed and attacked for modern agriculture. So, if we don't define what sustainability means for us, who will? These jokers, huh? The omnivores deliver, Michael Pollan. Let's all go vegan. That'll save the planet. Food, Inc. I don't know if any of you have seen this movie. If you haven't, God bless you, don't watch it. The meat racket, the secret takeover of America's food business. You know, nefarious companies like mine trying to rule the world through food. PETA, who has a fabulous marketing campaign. I give them credit for that. But these types of groups will show up in front of Walmart dressed as black and white cows with blood on them to prove their point that we're abusing animals, we're destroying the planet, to influence boardrooms to make knee-jerk decisions that truly negatively impact our industry. And this person, who's this guy? Who's that? Jamie Oliver, yeah. Almost solely responsible for the destruction of LFTB, right? A safe product that has been used for years and years in school lunch programs all across the world. Helps us do more with less. No one's grown a third ear or 12th finger from consuming LFTB, yet from his television show and through some blogs, we eliminated this incredible scientific achievement from the supply chain and overnight increased our carbon footprint, increased greenhouse gas emissions, increased our resource requirements. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing. So let's look at some of these 2050 global trends. You all know them. I won't stay on them for long. Global incomes are increasing. Global population is going to reach nearly 10 billion by 2050. Global consumption is going to go up. Why is that important? As incomes rise, as people transition from the lower class to the middle class to the upper middle class, what's the first thing they change when you go from a low income to a middle? The first thing you do you go out and buy a Mercedes, right? That's the first thing you do, right? No, you improve your diet, right? Eggs, milk, protein, right? So the things that we work on every day passionately, there's going to be more global demand, particularly from a rising middle class. And you saw from those previous pictures, increasingly consumers seem to want to go back to this 1930s idyllic notion of agriculture, local, organic, grass-fed. But it's clear that those systems don't have the scale and the power to meet that challenge. It's not to say that if you're involved in those systems and you're commanding a premium, God bless you for that. I'm all about the free market, and you should be able to get a return on your investment. However, we can't allow people to equate those niche systems with the broader term, the broader concept of sustainability, because that's our challenge, okay? Demand is growing, the world is not, okay? So how do we meet that? Well, we meet it through technology. We meet it through innovation. I was blown away by some of the research projects that ALMA is supporting, helping to support some fantastic scientists pursue here in Canada. Those are the types of innovations that are going to allow us to meet this challenge. There's an option, right? It's too many darn people. But again, you know, we're not activists in this room. We're realists. We're dealing with these challenges on the ground every day, so we're looking for common sense solutions. Ben Bernanke, I read this in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, and I just had to put it up. Both humanity's capacity to innovate and the incentives to innovate are greater today than at any other time in history, right? This is an exciting time. We have an incredible challenge before us. We have great minds within this room and across the globe dealing in agriculture, taking on this challenge, ready to feed the world, ready to do it in a responsible and sustainable manner so that we can preserve the planet for the next future generations. So what's been the commercial response? Well, everyone's heard about McDonald's. McDonald's is going to begin sourcing verified sustainable beef beginning in 2016. And I know McDonald's is in the room. I always pose the question, well, what are you sourcing today? I would argue they're sourcing sustainable beef today. But you see that in the marketplace, increasingly the retailer, the restaurant who is dealing with consumers on a daily basis, they want to make these supply chain claims. They want to transmit to the ultimate consumer their values, what they believe in, and why the consumer can have confidence in their product and enjoy consuming products they already love. So you see McDonald's is looking to start verified sustainable beef in 2016, and I know many in the room here are working with them in partnership in that concept. Walmart has announced a Standard of Excellence program which is going to touch at least 50% of their supply by the close of 2016. In addition, they've started beef pilot programs that are going to include environmental criteria. Now, it's not clear how they're going to transmit this information ultimately to consumers, but you can see the commercial marketplace is taking on sustainability, particularly in beef. They want to transmit these positive messages to consumers, so when they go and buy their Big Mac or their all-natural beef, they feel confident that they're consuming a quality product that respects the societal impacts and the environmental footprint. So I always like to walk people kind of through this slide so we kind of understand where we are and kind of how we got here. So very briefly, if you look at consumers, let's say there's 6 billion around the planet. About 99% of those consumers, they want choice. They want organic, they want grass-fed, they want conventional, they want options. They want to be able to go to the grocery store and choose quality products based upon their preferences. But they don't want to impose their preference on the rest of the marketplace, okay? But then you've got 1%. 1%, they're very vocal, they're very radical. And they believe they have been endowed by the great creator to impose their will upon the rest of society for the good of society. Just allow them to make the decisions and it'll be a better place for you and me, right? So they don't want conventional agriculture. They don't want the use of antibiotics or implants or hormones or LFTB or beta agonists or anything technological that allows us to do more with less. They want to impose their will on the rest of the chain. And I'll tell you what, that 1%, that vocal radical 1%, can have a huge impact on boardrooms across the globe. And you can see knee-jerk reactions to these vocal radicals in boardrooms that can affect our entire supply chain. So it's very important that we communicate that we're all involved in this sustainability discussion, that we're educating not only consumers, but one another of the challenges that we're facing so that wise, well-thought, long-term decisions are made on behalf of the industry rather than knee-jerk marketplace-based decisions. So then you have folks like McDonald's and Walmart. Now, they're very desirous of making supply chain claims so they can transmit, again, their values, what goes into their products to the consumer. They can be very reactive to this 1% pressure, and I'm not just talking McDonald's and Walmart as entities. I'm speaking of retail in general. They have to be very reactive to this 1% pressure because it can hurt them, it can hurt their brand reputation, it can hurt market share. So they don't have the luxury to stand up on the pillar of sanctity and say, no, we believe in this, and you consumers go to hell, right? They have to respond to these. They have to have cogent, sensible, transparent responses when challenged in the marketplace. But again, they also have to maintain kind of a low-cost offering, okay? Right? This is the model. The amount of money we spend on food, our percentage of disposable income, can't rise significantly. It'll hurt demand, right? So we have to continue to make low-cost offerings for the food that we're providing while providing a commensurate return to the rest of us in the supply chain, right? So when we talk about sustainability, we're not talking about making a bunch of supply chain demands that are going to result in a showering of new monies on the entire supply chain, right? We have to be efficient. We have to do more with less. We have to be more productive. Then you have folks like myself and Cargill. We're these packer processors. You know, we do the real sexy work. We lop off the heads and the tails. We turn the carcass into boxed beef and ship it all around. No one really wants to know about what we do, right? It's like I said last night. Everyone loves the hat and the boot. Everybody loves the sizzle on the grill, but I don't really need to know what Rich Vesta does, right? I don't really need to know what Cameron Bruett's doing because that's kind of the gory middle piece, right? But we're kind of in the middle on this sustainability discussion. We get these demands from our customers who would like to get more information on sustainability. But generally, they're not asking me, what am I doing with my wastewater, or what am I doing with my workforce, or things of that nature. They kind of want to get to the cow-calf. They want to get to the feedlot, the stocker in the background. And what are we doing to mitigate nitrous oxide emissions doing fertilizer production for grain production, right? What are we doing to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in our feedlots? Things of that nature. So we're kind of in the middle. We get a lot of these demands, and then we're forced to go further down the train to try to obtain this information from our supplier partners. So it puts us in a very enviable position. I have applications in my bag. We have a huge food safety responsibility, right? And food safety is one of these areas where technology is going to be critical to ensuring that we have a safe and abundant supply. We're low-margin operators for the most part. And many of us are creating commodity offerings that have limited consumer exposure, okay? So I need to partner with my friends at Walmart and McDonald's because they have the brand, they have the logo, the consumers identify my products with them, with those great companies. So I need to help grow demand by doing the things they need to respond to market signals. And then you have the producers, the feeders, the stockers, the backgrounders. You're getting the brunt of the supply chain demands. Whenever you hear sustainability spoken in the media or in academic centers, it's always about what's going on at the ranch, right? Huge environmental responsibility, your technology users, and often the best message vessel for consumers. Consumers don't want to hear me go on and on about what's going on in my plants. They want to hear from the rancher. They're a trusted source and commodity of information. But again, the focus of many of the demands. Then we have our friends, the activists, right? I put Greenpeace up there, but it could be any logo from one of these NGOs. An NGO is a non-governmental organization. Sometimes they're terrorist groups. But if you look at these activists, they've done a really admirable job in this sense. They often make demands on farming operations, right? They want ranchers to change their practices. They want only certain types of systems to be promoted. They only like certain types of agriculture. But the great challenge for them, look at the United States. We have 850,000 cow-calf producers in the United States, okay? no NGO is going to go onto a farming or ranching operation and make demands. Why? Because they'll have a shotgun in their face within 2 minutes, right? So they can't impact 850,000 cow-calf producers. We have 70+ thousand feedlots in the United States. Think an NGO is welcome at a feedlot? Can they impact the decisions that are made on a daily basis at a feedlot? Absolutely not. But they can impact that 1%. And so how do they leverage the game? Well, right there, ladies and gentlemen. They come to McDonald's, they come to Walmart, they come to me, they come to Rich Vesta, they come to Cargill. They go to the center of the funnel where they can impact and make the most influence, right? And then these players are asked to make demands on the rest of the chain. So it's very important that we understand this concept, right? That when you see some of these more radical groups or you hear some of these more radical positions, understand this is not a representation of the great swath of consumers around the globe. We're talking about this very vocal, radical 1%. Now, that's not to discount their influence, because they have considerable influence. But understand, we have a message too, and we have a message that resonates with the vast majority of the population. And we need to start articulating that message to drown out some of the noise that we hear. So, sustainability for beef. Again, I think a lot of people equate sustainability with the environment. I challenge that. Sustainability is about 3 pillars: social, environmental, and yes, economic, right? And it is the balance of these 3 pillars where the true sweet spot of sustainability lies. So when we talk about sustainable challenges, and I think this is very relevant to North American operations, our greatest challenges aren't necessarily environmental, all right? Our great sustainable challenges as an industry are what we have up there. Aging producers, right? Young people wanting to leave the farm operation, go into town to make a little bit more money, and God bless them for that. Declining herd, right? Where are we going to have supply over the next 5 to 10 years? Producing product that's out of spec, not resonating with consumers, not providing a consistent eating experience. The barriers to entry for our industry. How do we pass these operations that have been in the hands of families for generations to that next generation? And will technology be an option for our industry? As consumers increasingly send these signals that they don't want technology in agriculture, they like it in their cell phone, like it in their iPad, keep it out of my steak. How are we going to meet the challenges of tomorrow if technology is not an option? So in my mind, these are some of the great sustainability challenges for our industry. Not so much some of the environmental buzzwords that you hear every day. So remember, when we're talking about sustainability, environmental is certainly a strong pillar that needs to be addressed, but it's only one of 3, right? We have to consider the economic and the societal. We have to understand the impacts of when these demands are placed on these operations. What does that do to that rural community and all the other businesses that rural operation supports, right? This is about our livelihood. The beauty of sustainability, the reason why I'm so passionate about it, is because it's an issue that does not afford one to simply promote an issue du jour, okay? You do not get to focus solely on animal welfare. You do not get to focus solely on environmental or greenhouse gas emissions. You have to balance the issue with all 3 pillars. It is a great issue for our industry because no one has the story to tell that we do, okay? Me and the people in this room, we represent some of the original stewards of the land. There is no NGO, consumer activist, no mommy blogger that can say they've done more for the environment than many of the people in this room, okay? So we need to be proud about that. We need to embrace that and understand when we talk about sustainability, it does not afford people the opportunity to isolate you on any one issue. So, sustainable beef. This is what the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef is all about. And this is what I believe. All beef systems, all of them, can be sustainable. Why? Because sustainability is simply about continuous improvement, doing better today than you did yesterday so you can improve tomorrow. That means if it's grass-fed, if it's organic, if it's a big, nasty CAFO like I have, it can be improved. The footprint can be reduced. We can produce more productive animals. We can enhance and improve the genetic profile of the animals. There's so many things that we can do to improve, right? It is not about picking winners and losers. It's not about saying my ranch is sustainable but my neighbor's is not. No, it's a continuum, right? And you never achieve sustainability, okay? You don't wake up in the morning and all of a sudden what I do is sustainable and I can call it a day. So, okay, don't have to worry about that anymore. That sustainability deal's done with. No, it's a continuous journey. It's an evolution, right? That's what's so exciting about it. I mean, the very nature of agriculture is about improvement. It's about becoming more efficient. Our history tells the story, right? It's amazing that we're the industry that's attacked on this issue. Frankly, it's laughable, right? But it's all about continuous improvement. It's also about consumer choice. Consumers want choice. Well, we should meet that choice. We should provide them the options that they desire. But we should be honest in the way that we provide those options, okay? No more of this silliness of saying organic is somehow safer or has better nutritional quality or saying that natural is better. No, there are options in the marketplace. But all beef is sustainable, right? I kind of look at it as kind of like Mercedes, right? All beef is from the Mercedes line. Now, there's some CKs and some CLs and some stuff with some bells and whistles, but at the end of the day, all of it's sustainable, okay? So don't get caught into the trap of saying my version of this product is sustainable, but my neighbor's is not, okay? That does not help our industry. It may lead to short-term market gains for some companies, but it is a bad decision long-term for the industry. No one goes in the supermarket today and assumes that X product is safe and Y product is not safe when it comes to ag products, right? The assumption is if it's in the grocery store, it's safe. Otherwise, why the hell would it be in the grocery store, okay? That's how sustainability should be viewed for our agricultural products, right? The baseline should be sustainability. Now, if you want to make some increased investments, if you want to adopt innovative processes like Rich is doing in his plants and make further claims on top of that, that's fine. But not to the detriment of other products in the system, right? We should all benefit from sustainability because we're all on this journey of continuous improvement. Many of us are at different stages and different levels of that journey, but that doesn't make your product unsustainable. So avoid the trap of picking winners and losers when it comes to this issue. And again, here's the great thing about our industry and why the activists they wake up every morning and they're just so frustrated. People love our product. They just love it. And they want a license to continue to love it. They want to know more about our story. They want to know more about the values that we put into these products that result in their great dinner time meals that they enjoy with their family each and every day. They love our product. We just need to give them the license to continue to love it, hopefully love it a little bit more, grow some demand, send some signals back to grow some capacity, grow the herd, and really get our industry launching again. So, sustainable beef. This is where the GRSB enters. So, as you looked at that slide, you see there's a lot of pressure points and people trying to manipulate the system to create outcomes that they believe are in their best interest. But we've chosen a different approach. It's the roundtable approach, the round bunk approach, right? I'll tell you what, though, most days it feels like that. A lot of divergent interests on the roundtable, right? You've got NGOs, you've got packers, you've got retailers, you've got roundtables, you've got all these different folks coming to the table with a different view of what sustainability means to them and their constituency. And God darn, they're going to fight for it, right? So it is herding cats at its finest. So who we are, you can all read. I'll let you read. I want to point out a couple of words that aren't in that little blurb there. Standards, certification, Illuminati, New World Order. The goal of the Global Roundtable is to basically chalk the boundary lines of the playing field, right? To say what's in bounds and what's out of bounds when discussing sustainability, to empower people to address some of the key issues in a responsible manner so that we can grow a more sustainable global beef production system, okay? That's leadership, that's science, that's multi-stakeholder engagement. Multi-stakeholder engagement, ladies and gentlemen, is the key. It truly is. You can't just simply, as an industry, go off into a corner and concoct the future any longer. Consumers have lost trust in industry. They've lost trust, with the exception of Minister Alston, in government, right? So you have to have these multi-stakeholder approaches where people with differing views and opinions can sit at the table, hash out these issues, and come up with a common sense solution. If you don't take that approach, then the consumer doesn't buy it. They don't believe you, right? They don't think your effort is relevant, it's tainted, it's just an industry initiative. And even though we have, and you'll see when I put up our membership list, all these NGOs and all these people from all around the world, GRSB gets criticized all the time. Oh, you're just a front for McDonald's. You're just a front for Walmart. Ask Walmart and McDonald's how much their voice has power in those rooms, right? They're just one of like 65 folks, and they get shouted down as much as I do. So this multi-stakeholder approach is critical to having credibility in the marketplace. So here's our vision. Is that achievable? Is that possible? Can beef be sustainable? I see all the time in the news, you know, one of the great knocks against the Global Roundtable is that we have beef and sustainable, those words next to each other, and that's impossible. Beef can't be sustainable, right? That's some of the rhetoric that we hear. That's some of the common perception that we as an industry have to combat. And I believe in this vision. There is no reason we can't achieve this vision. It's a continuum, ladies and gentlemen, right? Does that mean that right now, as I stand here today, that every operation on the planet Earth is doing everything it can to effectively marshal its limited natural resources or do all that it can to have the most positive societal impact? No, it does not. But everybody can improve, right? And we can promote those who are doing great things on their operations, share those best management practices with others, empower producers to make the types of changes to their operations that will ensure their long-term growth and sustainability, empower packer processors to do the right thing in their communities with their workforce, give Walmart, give McDonald's, give Loblaws, give other retailers the tools that they need to tell the message to help grow demand. This is achievable. So here are our constituency groups in the roundtable. So we have producer and producer associations. Here's one of the great differences about the Global Roundtable for sustainable beef. Producers are a hallmark of our roundtable, okay? This isn't just a bunch of big corporations sitting in a smoky, cigar-filled room dictating the future of the production side of the chain. We've got NCBA, CCA, Cattle Council Australia, GTPS. Every major producing region of the world has their predominant producer organization sitting in the General Assembly of GRSB, if not the executive board and the executive committee. So producers are at the table. It's critical to have them at the table. Commerce and processing, that would be myself, companies like JBS, drug dealers like Elanco and Merck. Retail constituency would be our friends in the retail sector, obviously. Civil society, this is a kind way of saying NGO. And then national and regional roundtables. This is one of the critical pieces of the Global Roundtable. We recognized early on we could not come up with a global standard or a global certification that would be applicable to every beef production system on the planet, right? You can't do it. If you attempted to come up with some metric by which to measure every beef production system, you would immediately eliminate great swaths of global production. And going back to our 2050 challenge, you would hinder our opportunity to meet that challenge, okay? So our goal was never to create a global standard. If you look at some of these other commodity roundtables, like the Better Cotton Initiative or the Roundtable for Responsible Palm Oil or you name it, they come up with a global standard, a global seal, a nice little sticker you can slap on a package and say, hey, this was made with responsible soy or whatever the heck, right? But a lot of those commodities are grown in very temperate environments with similar challenges, and they lend themselves to a global seal or a global certification. Well, GRSB does not want to take that approach. We will not take that approach. We simply want to define that term so that folks like the people in this room, through the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, can be empowered to address those issues in a manner that makes sense for your ecosystem, your geopolitical challenges, the market signals that your supply chain is receiving. And the other thing that you should keep in mind is, you know, we get a lot of pushback because we don't have a global seal. And a lot of people like global seals. It simplifies life. It's like, oh, I put the global seal on there, I'm good to go, it's sustainable, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you look at a lot of these other global roundtables and you ask them the most salient question, they're very proud of their seal, and you say, well, how much of global production is produced under that fancy little gold seal you got there? 1%, 2%, if that, right? Because sometimes when you do a global standard like that, you actually create a disincentive in the marketplace to adopt it because it's so expensive, right? And consumers don't want to go to Walmart or to Target or to any other store and pay a $5 premium for a cotton T-shirt because it's sustainable cotton. Now, the 1% may say that they do, but the facts don't bear that out. So we have to be cautious in the way that we adopt sustainability into our supply chain, that we're not increasing costs without a commensurate return on investment for those who are asked to make changes, right? We need to do the right thing for the environment. We need to do the right thing to communicate our messaging. But we have to make sure that we're not incurring unnecessary costs onto the system. So the national and regional roundtables are an incredibly important part because they are the people on the ground. They're the people close to that supply chain. They're the people who have the passion to implement the changes that are going to lead to more sustainable systems. So I just want to give you some of our membership real quick. I'm PowerPoint challenged, I apologize. We'll skip membership. There's a bunch of companies, a bunch of logos. Makes me feel good. When we started in 2010, we started with 5 members, and we had a global conference on sustainable beef. It was Cargill, McDonald's, Walmart, JBS, Elanco, and WWF. World Wildlife Fund, it's not the wrestling group. And we had this conference, and we got 250 people from around the world. Gordon, I think you were there, representing your entire country, and thank you for that. And we all got into these rooms, and we talked about beef sustainability. What does it mean? What are the challenges? How do we go forward? And it was an interesting conference, but, you know, frankly, not a lot was accomplished. There was a lot of chit-chatter, but I think the 5 principles, the 6 principles realized from that, hey, there's really a need to address this in a sober, cogent manner. Let's form a roundtable and really start to hash out some of these issues. So the roundtable was established in early 2011. We started with 12 members. Many of those were multinationals. The Brazilian Working Group on Livestock was one of those members as well. And we started holding national consultations and going around the world talking about the need for a global roundtable and seeking participants. So from early 2011 to today, we've grown from 12 members to about 65 members. Okay, so we're having good progress. Costco just called yesterday, said they want to join. So we're getting good retail participation as well, which is incredibly important because they are often the vehicle to transmit this message to consumers, right? You need them at the table. There are a lot of other points here. The biggest point here is that we released our global definition, the draft, earlier this year in March. We went through a round of global public comments, some of them very enlightening, very helpful, some of them not worth the paper they were written on. And we will now incorporate those public comments to help refine and improve and bolster that definition, which we will release at the end of this year at the second global conference in São Paulo. So, sustainability is not going away, particularly for beef, right? We're in the front lines on this issue. All you have to do is just look at this slide and see all the different organizations, and this is just a snapshot, trust me, that are focused on beef sustainability, okay? All of them have a different definition for it. All of them have a different view of what it means, given their place in the supply chain. It lends itself to the need for some common approach to identifying what the heck does sustainability mean for global beef systems. And that's what GRSB is focused on. Not dictating the terms, identifying the terms, so we can all speak the same language. So how do we view sustainability at GRSB? Very simple. This Venn diagram, it says it all. Socially responsible, economically viable, environmentally sound, and the confluence of all three of those issues, the intersection, that's sustainable beef. It's not in any one of those circles. It's the confluence of all three. It's balance. It's continuous improvement. So, our summary, draft definition and summary, planet, people, animals, and progress. 4 words that took forever to agree upon, right? Now, I had a big fight with the NGOs and I lost. I said it should be people, planet, animals, and progress. I said no one's trying to save the moon. Ain't no people there, right? Oh, I say you're trying to save the planet. You wouldn't be interested in the planet if it wasn't populated with people. This is about people first. Yeah, got beat on that one, but you live to fight another day. But we define sustainable beef as a socially responsible, environmentally sound, and economically viable product that prioritizes those 4 areas, right? There's nothing in that definition, I would argue, I would hope, that is inconsistent with your approach to what you do on a daily basis, whether you're an academic, cow-calf guy, packer processor, retailer, restaurant. I think it's consistent with our values. It's broad enough that it gives us the flexibility to address these challenges in a way that makes sense to our local supply chain and system challenges, and still resonates. I still think it's credible, right? That's the goal. It has to have consumer relevance. So 5 major areas: natural resources, that's environment; people in the community, that's society; animal health and welfare, it's kind of society as well; food safety, food quality, food availability, food affordability; and efficiency and innovation. This is critical, okay? So we've talked a lot this morning about how consumers increasingly want technology out of their agriculture. Well, if we're going to define sustainability, we're going to do it honestly, okay? And without technology, without innovation, we cannot meet the challenges of tomorrow. We just can't, okay? So it needs to be a fundamental pillar when we talk about sustainability, even if people don't like it, even if they don't like it. We have to be honest with our audience, okay? We're going to need technological advances if we're going to have any shot at meeting those 2050 challenges. So we're very proud that efficiency and innovation is one of our major pillars when it comes to sustainability, and you rarely see that in sustainability discussions. So why do we only go to the principles level? So you see you've got objectives, what are we trying to get done? Principles, what are we fundamentally trying to do? What's our intent? Criteria. Then you've got indicators and means of verification. Indicators and means of verification should and will be done by the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, right? That is not the province, excuse the pun, of the Global Roundtable, okay? We want to set these broad terms, these objectives, these principles and criteria, then how you go about addressing them in a manner that makes sense for Albertans, for Canadians, should be determined by you, okay? This should be an empowerment exercise, not a global fiat, right? So that's why we made this conscious decision to stop at this criteria level. You'll see a lot of pushback in the press about how we don't go deep enough, we're not banning antibiotics, we're not doing, well, those should be individual supply chain systems. We should say you need to protect animal health and welfare. The manner in which you go about doing that shouldn't matter. It should be outcomes-based, right? Because we're going to need all these systems to help contribute to meet that global challenge. And given the diversity of ecosystems in which beef production occurs, a universal standard, it's not feasible, it's not practical, we're not pursuing it, okay? So, just very briefly, we'll be meeting in Calgary next week. Why are we meeting in Calgary? We're going to have our technical working groups help refine each of those principles and criteria based on the public comments. Frankly, I picked Canada because, I mean, you guys are rocking when it comes to sustainability. You're doing a fantastic job. Very progressive, an export-minded production system, so I think a little bit more acknowledgement maybe than in the States and some other areas that you have to compete on a global scale, that increasingly sustainability is becoming one of those tools to differentiate your system and to be more productive on that international global marketplace scale. So we really wanted to come up and acknowledge the great work of the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, and let this be the place where we help refine that definition. I think that sends a strong message. After we incorporate those public comments, again, we'll send them to approval for our General Assembly in November. So, global scope of the roundtable, but it's all about regional empowerment, right? We want the people on the ground to have ownership of their operations, of how they can improve, of how they can help us achieve this 2050 challenge. This is not about dictating to the world. We're going to support these local, national, and regional sustainability initiatives, help leverage them, help get them more exposure, help transmit the great work that they're doing so others can be privy to some of the just fascinating and exciting work that's being done around the globe, and to really go after achieving a global sustainable beef production system. So with that, I'll stop yapping. And are we doing any questions? Or? Thank you. I'd like as many members as possible, right? So I think as we go forward, we need to make sure that we're getting good regional representation, particularly from the major beef producing areas, so Australia, Canada, the U.S., Brazil, Argentina, and would really like to make sure we have strong representation amongst all constituencies in those regions. And then I think we need to really reach out then to some of the consuming regions of the world, Asia, for example, Europe, to make sure that we're getting their input and their participation as well. I don't have an ideal number. I mean, dealing with 65 is such a headache as it is, but I think we need more Europeans. Europeans in general have everything figured out. So it's sometimes this isn't as attractive as a process. But we do need to get more involvement, and more involvement from retail, from those who are ultimately dealing with consumers. Because what we can't do is we can't allow decisions at one end of the chain, pick an end, influence the rest of the chain without communication, understanding of how those decisions impact all of us. We need to really be partnered because our industry is so segmented.
One question I would have is, as we leave here and go back to our homes and go back to our businesses, what is the one thing that each of us could do that would build greater public trust in food and in the farming system that we're doing?
Talk about what you do every day to whoever will listen. If that's a neighbor, if that's a person sitting next to you on the pew at church, if that's at a grocery store, educate people. Take them on your journey. Transmit your values so they understand what you do. I was in Washington, D.C. for 15 years. I was at a lot of foo-foo dinner parties, right? Drinking and eating really fancy crap. And I would always challenge them, you know, on what they were serving, what they were eating, why they were feeding their baby all this organic baby food. What's the point of that? Did they just feel better paying more for it? Or, you know, where's the science behind it? Challenge people. Challenge misperceptions. And let your passion flow. Let people see that you're passionate. Because it's very easy for someone to hate what they don't know, right? It's very difficult to throw stones at someone when you know a little bit about them. So don't be shy about who you are, what you do. Embrace it. You have a responsibility. So talk about it. Be proud about it.
Good. Cameron, I think with that, it's a great message to leave on. I want to thank you for taking the time and coming and talking to us. I think it's been a great opportunity. Again, on behalf of ALMA and the rest.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.